Welcome to Leading Ladies of Rio Rancho, brought to you by the Rio Rancho Observer. During this series, we will invite business and community leaders from Rio Rancho and its surrounding communities in Sandoval County for conversations on what they do, why they do it, and the issues they face. I'm your host, Tracy Goldeisen, editor of the Rio Rancho Observer. Welcome. Hello, everybody. With us today is Dora Dominguez. She is the director of the Sandoval County Business and Economic Development. Thanks for coming in. And I just want to ask if you can give a little bit of description of your role with the county and a little bit of your background.
You bet. Thank you so much, Tracy, for the invitation. I'm familiar with the program, and I got to tell you a little bit. It's a little daunting given some of the individuals that you've already interviewed. But so Dora Dominguez, and I have the honor and the distinction of being the director for business and economic development and tourism for Sandoval County. And I've been with Sandoval County since March of 2019. Prior to that, I was with the city of Albuquerque for about 5 years as their senior economic developer. And so it's work and then just a lifetime. I tell folks, over 20 years, in economic development, interfacing with businesses, existing businesses. And so my family is here. I just shared with you that I have a son that's a band director at Tony Hillerman Elementary School and got my undergraduate degree at Eastern New Mexico as a journalism major. And so walking into the Albuquerque Journal is like, yes, this is my dream job. Interviewed here twice, but that's okay, right? Yeah. Everything happens for a reason. But straight out of college, this is where, all journalism students wanted to come and work. But my path took me journalism-wise to Amarillo, Texas. And so that's where, I did the journalism thing and then thought, you know what, need to go back and get a master's degree and a little, but the background, working in journalism, that communications degree, just has really served me very well.
Great. And now, that's pretty broad, economic development, tourism, and all business. That's a broad brush. And Sandoval County covers a large area. So how do you get it all done?
It does cover a lot of areas. For the last couple years, our county manager, who's Wayne Johnson, right, and I, whenever we get the opportunity to go out and speak to the community, to business groups, we've coined that phrase about, it's about the 3 Ps. In economic development circles, the 3 Ps are public-private partnerships. But we like to say that in Sandoval County, it's really always been about place and people and partnerships. So you're right. I mean, it's a huge county. Tourism encompasses so much, with our Pueblo communities, our tribal influences, places to see. It's all about outdoor recreation right now on the tourism side, and then in economic development. Our big powerhouse industry sector is, it is Intel, and supporting them and their huge expansion that's happening now, and then working with, small and medium businesses to make sure that they're familiar with what incentives are out there. So economic development, it can sound like it's a whole, it's really broad. It can be very broad. You got to pick your battles. Economic development is about economic base, so it's manufacturing. Right. Don't just grow it, package it, put a label on it, name it after yourself. Make that salsa, but don't just just mass produce and not have value add. So we kind of hone in to those industries. Sandoval County, thankfully, through the leadership of its county commissioners, have figured out the importance of incentives. We do fund our own economic development incentive fund and have been able to partner with the state on some projects to support expansion of existing businesses. And then we've also been able to provide our own economic development incentive fund for projects that were, just county assistance only. So, but there's a lot to it. But in New Mexico, it is about partnerships, who you can call, for best practices and assistance, so we really enjoy our partnerships within the county.
Okay, great. And then how has your role evolved as Sandoval County has grown?
Well, it's going to keep growing. So
Yes.
we always tell folks that, it's one of the only counties in the state of New Mexico that continues to grow in population.
Right.
We're like, woohoo, thank you, Rio Rancho, right? So the reality is that New Mexico, this central New Mexico, right, our greater Albuquerque area, I think has gotten very accustomed to that commute over the river.
Yeah.
So if you've ever had to do that drive, so people, affordable housing was on the west side of the river, and then, everybody was crossing the river in the mornings and in the evenings to come back.
Right.
What's happened in Sandoval County and our partners in the city of Rio Rancho, quite frankly, is that we've really gotten behind this movement about industry west of the river,
Right.
West side was where the neighborhoods are growing. That's where you saw more the high schools being built, so we kind of have really concentrated on the importance of that, and it rings. It gets support from state legislators, even at our federal level. It makes sense, right? So how do we lessen the commute, live,
Right.
work, and play, right? Everybody should have the opportunity, to earn your day's wages, somewhere close to home, right? Where your
Right.
kids go to school and, where you shop. And if it could all be, save you the gas and the carbon emissions, right?
And the
even better.
gridlock.
And the gridlock. I did hear where the most stressful time of the day, it was like some national study. They were talking on the radio this morning about it is 8:15 in the
Really?
morning. And they attribute it to people's commutes.
Wow. Well, going off of that, you recently did a presentation on the I-40 Trade Corridor project at an event for the Rio Rancho Regional Chamber members. Can you give a brief overview of that project and the potential impact it could have for Rio Rancho and Sandoval County?
Yeah, definitely. Again, partnerships with the Rio Rancho Chamber, they reached out and they had already, the keynote was our Secretary for Transportation for New Mexico, Ricky Cerna. And, he'll cover so much stuff, right?
Right.
Like everything from employment opportunities within the department to the next big road project happening somewhere in the state. But nonetheless, the Chamber News, like, this I-40 corridor is getting people's attention. And so Secretary Cerna, definitely familiar with the project, knew that we had put together a coalition, three states if we think about the Long Beach, California, but in partnerships with the community of Winslow, Arizona, Kingman, Arizona, the village of Las Lunas, and I'll explain how that, and then Bernalillo County and Sandoval County put together an application to USDOT. It's part of their Build America Bureau initiative to really identify opportunities along major U.S. trade corridors. Yeah, so trade, transportation, freight corridors to grow. I mean, how can you create, industrial parks, along these corridors? And we already had one trade port accelerator designation down south in Las Cruces in Doña Ana County, which was awarded about 4 years ago. And so through the insight of some very savvy consultants that had worked on the state's transportation corridor plan like 6 or 7 years ago, said, there's something there. And USDOT really wants to get behind initiatives that create jobs tied to the freight that's coming across these, massive interstates. And so we wrote the grant. And we submitted and we asked for $3.2 million. We thought we had a good shot to get fully funded at that amount. And then got a notice, through the USDOT that everybody else had figured out that this was a great opportunity and they wanted to do the same all around the country. So they were oversubscribed in applications, but they really wanted to see what we were going to be able to do. So we got just under $1 million. And so through that coalition, and we meet monthly with our partners and start talking about, okay, where along the corridor, understanding semi-truck transport that comes in from the port at Long Beach was the other partner on the California side, and how much of that, is loaded onto rail and how much is onto truck. Well, it is truck. It's close to 90% of all the freight that comes in through the port at Long Beach is unloaded onto trucks, and it hits I-40. There's a big percentage of consumer goods that come into that port that just stay in California, right? Because there's a huge consumer market, finished goods stay there. But there's a lot of components that are coming in to the port of Long Beach from Asian countries. So these are small components that go into, electronics, that go into, other, finished goods.
Right.
And so everybody knows that the cost of doing business, land in California, is only going to continue to get more expensive. Everybody knows that with the emissions rules and regs that are going to only get stricter in the state of California, trucks are going to be challenged with in and out into the state. We're really going to see in our lifetime, yours, Tracy, and mine, right? Electric trucks, autonomous semi-trucks are already on our roads. I'm not going to tell you when, but they're out there and they're testing them, right?
Yeah.
And then hydrogen as a clean fuel.
Right.
And so that's something that New Mexico is really, really seen as an opportunity. And so getting to support the freight transport from Long Beach, where along the corridor, if the trucks leave Long Beach, where they require to stop. So they've identified Winslow, they've identified Kingman as communities that have large land bases that could potentially be where these trucks refuel. In new fuels technologies, but then along I-40, they want to be able to position not just the fueling part of it, but the testing and the research into new fuels. The longevity of just battery storage, quite frankly, to support, semi trucks. And so it actually lands, right within Bernalillo County, where you would be able then to support an accelerator. So it's not much more than just a place to, to charge up or refuel. That this project, and we haven't identified yet the site, but believe me, USDOT is very much aware of what's happening all along Atrisco and I-40 as you come into Albuquerque. So that's where you see Amazon Distribution Center, Tempur-Pedics there. I think Benny Keith now just did their second expansion of their big warehouse operation. And so everybody's looking at that. So the trucks come off, they exit Atrisco, they unload, and they leave. Right? They're doing big old U-turns. The partnership between Bernalillo County and Sandoval County on this initiative is really focused on from the Atrisco exit, where you can see Double Eagle Airport is also Paseo del Volcan.
Right.
So the connector, between 40 and I-25 is really, Paseo del Volcan and that loop. And so we would definitely want to be able to capitalize on, and that's the whole plan. Village of Los Lunas came into play because USDOT was kind of coaching us. As they're reviewing the application, they're saying you need to have a rail component. Village of Los Lunas actually has the infrastructure spur off the main line, of rail. Just outside of the village. We don't call it an intermodal yet because that distinction or that descriptive is used once BNSF identifies that spur as having enough freight at the end of it for them to put it on the main line. But so that's kind of the big play. And communities like Gallup, along I-40, because as you build up that infrastructure, testing and new technologies that support our freight and transportation industry, will also develop.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm remembering from your presentation that you did that Paseo del Volcan expansion could be a connector for trucks to I-25 without them having to go through the Big I and Albuquerque, and then also could potentially open up some manufacturing opportunities, correct?
Correct. So, as trucks come into, New Mexico, quite often, what the reality is they leave empty. So the idea is, we can work with USDOT under this accelerator designation, identify, this big, and it's going to, they're wanting us to identify a 4,000 acre site, within Bernalillo County for this big accelerator test facility. Well, then the industry would then follow. The industry, to locate as well, along that corridor. But, the dream is that, those components all come in on separate trucks. They all, will all locate, in an assembly facility, companies that then take the components and produce the finished goods. So manufacturing along, Paseo del Volcan, because there's still so much undeveloped along that whole corridor.
Right. And I know that Paseo del Volcan expansion has been in the vision for a long time.
For a long time. And in my experience, just my whole 5 years at Sandoval County, we were very accomplished and very, in having succeeded in NMDOT now giving the designation to Paseo del Volcan is a horizon project. So that it is there. It is on their planning, but it's not, a 5-year, they're looking more like between 8 and 10 completely finished out.
Okay.
In the meantime, the due diligence on our part, both Bernalillo County and Sandoval County wise, is to demonstrate that where you've built it out, development is happening.
Right.
Retail is happening. I mean, you finish out that road. If you see it on the other end, on the city center side in Rio Rancho, look what's happened. Sandoval Regional Hospital has grown immensely with the Center of Orthopedic Excellence now out there. So where it's built out, you see that. Someone asked me, it was, I think it was after that chamber event but there's been development along the way. Residential, has also built there. Cleveland High School is.
It's out there.
It's out there as well. So with consideration of those things, it's amazing what we can design, but that is the plan, and that's why. Our partners in Bernalillo County understood, hey, let's give Dora a call because we think we have some momentum on this USDA accelerator program. There's a partnership there. Atrisco is still a big U-turn, as trucks and freight go. And what do we need to do to make sure that when those trucks do leave, that they leave full? And then if they want the option of then connecting out, connector to I-25 and then points north, that it works to support that industry. I just heard where Farmington just announced an Amazon distribution center.
Oh, wow.
So if you think about PDV, then to 550, Farmington, Four Corners, out the other way, right?
Yeah, that would be fantastic for that.
I know. I think I told them to do that. You guys really need to announce a distribution center in Farmington. So those things happen, but it's the infrastructure. So when we talk in terms of, the partnerships, it's people, it's places, and partnerships.
And being able to kind of see where the potential is in the future.
Right.
Another P.
Right. It's another P.
So let's kind of shift to the tourism side in Sandoval County. What treasures does the county hold for tourism, and what makes the county so unique? I know you mentioned, some of the tribal communities and the pueblos.
Oh, most definitely. So the other side, and it does connect because I think somebody figured out a long time ago that economic development is what you have that you can leverage to convince people that bring your company here, right? So tourism is the same way. Countless, over my 20 years working in economic development, when you ask a company what brought your company, why did you come? It just, you don't want to say it for them. We came on vacation. We came on vacation and then thought, this might be a place that we could come back and, start a company. So there is definitely a correlation. We're trying to work a lot closer with state tourism, state economic development to understand the brand, right? So outside of New Mexico, what do people associate with New Mexico? Right. And that New Mexico True brand, has been around, for so long that New Mexico True means New Mexico True authentic cultural tourism experiences, but New Mexico True is also about the value system for, a workforce, right? I mean, it speaks to so many things. And so we're trying to capitalize on those partnerships and then that iconic brand that is the New Mexico True brand. But here of late, in the last 5 years, the buzz has really been about people want to get outdoors. Maybe, it's, we think, post-COVID, people just want to experience the outdoors. And so we were there. We were there. We were the outdoor recreation before outdoor recreation was cool. Yeah. And so it is really about, people want authentic experiences, the Pueblo partnerships that we have, iconic places to see and do. And we understand that when people come out to visit, they're not like, oh, I must be in Bernalillo County now. Oh, am I in Sandoval County, or am I in Santa Fe? They don't know.
Yeah.
Right? They want the experience. And so Sandoval County, again, the wisdom of, its leadership, our county commission invested, it's probably been about now 4 years ago, into its own website. So it's csandoval.org.
Right.
And with our partners, the incorporated municipalities within Sandoval County, we make sure that there's an events page, on csandoval.org that takes people through all the wonderful things there is to do. So outdoor recreation kind of being the focus. But we were talking about, hey, fine dining. You know, you've got places in Corrales and Rio Rancho that have just risen to the occasion of, fine dining opportunities. Our breweries add a whole other different element. So if you want a pizza and a beer, or you want prime rib and a great Chardonnay, which one, right? And so a big investment has been made on the website to kind of guide people, to places and things to do. We even did an app. Yes, we have an app. So there's a tourism app, and we copied it because Visit ABQ, had an itinerary planning component to its website.
Right.
So you can go in and put in what days you're going to be there, what are the things, check the boxes. You want to do some hiking, you want to do some fishing, and it'll connect you to those options, and then you can create a customized itinerary, and then you can send it to your phone, you can send it to your personal email, and then you can just work off the things to do outdoors, that are, whether people realize it or not. Valles Caldera is amazing. And so it's a national preserve.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot of calls from people saying, where do I get my permit? Is there a limited number of permits a day? And our website directs people and answers a lot of those questions.
Yeah. So, I was looking over this list that you had sent out a few days ago, and I'm just like, I need to become a tourist in my own county.
I know. You know what? That was actually, hey, you're onto something. That was actually a big campaign. It's probably been about maybe 6-7 years ago. Be a tourist in your own town.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget, that right there. Somebody used, I'm not going to take credit myself, but that Sandoval County, it's so close to so many things. And whether you're here for the balloon fiesta and you want to get outside of the city and just have a base to stay in Rio Rancho, and day trips. We've done that thing where, from Rio Rancho, anything, 60, 80 miles. I mean, it's just golfing. Yeah. Snowshoeing. The Valles Caldera has world-class, snowshoeing in the wintertime. So, people don't realize, it's like right there and right off of I-25.
Right. Yeah, I know. There's just so much here that, we've been here about 2.5 years, and there's so much here that I'm like, some of it I knew about, some of it I didn't. And I'm so glad I have this list now, because it gives us a list of ideas to do when we have a weekend with nothing to do. It's like, hey, let's get out and explore some of this.
And you're always learning, and I think when you're working with tourism professionals, when you're working with site selectors that, are coming to just look at locations for possible, expansion, they want to do something that they're going to remember.
Right.
So it's, Chaco Canyon, although it's not in Sandoval County, the last place that you can get a cold beverage before you get to Chaco Canyon is in Cuba, New Mexico. Yeah. And so the owners of that little convenience store, the last one, so it's the far north end of Cuba, remind everybody of that. So before you walk out of their little convenience store, like, this is the last place for a cold beverage. And so we've talked a lot about with our national parks, that we need to do more about, the economic impact, right, of a national park, whether it's, World Heritage sites like Chaco or Carlsbad Caverns, the economic impact of someone that comes, the impression that they leave with, that it's considerable. And it's considerable for small rural communities. So the village of Cuba, understands that people are coming through. And oftentimes they're toting some pretty expensive mountain bikes.
Oh, sure.
Because they're out and they're experiencing whether it's the Continental Divide or, on their way to Chaco Canyon. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, one of these that caught my eye was the paddle boarding and the horseback riding. Those are two things that I want to cross off my list.
There's and they're wonderful partners at Tamiya. So the resort of Tamiya has a stables. So if you're a stable trail horseback rider, you definitely have that option. And then our village of Corrales, which I think their Main Street, touts that they're the horseman capital of the United States.
Yeah, she was on a few weeks ago. I can't remember how she put it, but yeah, she said that was one of the things they were known for is their horseback riding and its trails and
And then the paddle boards was new to me. So, but there in the town of Bernalillo, there's where the Rio Grande, right across, there's like the little bridge right off of 550. Everything's 550.
Right.
But there's a company and they have an office in the town of Bernalillo and then offices in Albuquerque, but you can rent them or you can, they'll send, or if you're not comfortable just going on your own and you're an experienced paddleboard person, they can do tours as well.
Oh,
so,
that's incredible.
I know. I think it just requires a sense of balance that I'm not sure. Right? It's like I see water, I'll fall in. Same way with golf. My golf ball sees water, it goes in. So I know.
And then, there's some events that you sent over that Sandoval County is known for. Do you want to touch on those real quick?
Yeah. So, the tourism side, developing your tourism, your events, signature events, within Sandoval County. We just missed the Bernalillo Indian Arts Festival was this past weekend, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that just because it's juried, and so the organizers of the Bernalillo Indian Arts Festival have really worked for years and years to really making it an opportunity for their artisans and craftsmen, jewelers and potters and all sorts, to have the opportunity to be judged, and be able to add that to their, their awards and, be able to sell their art, their artwork. So it's definitely a very signature event. I didn't get a chance before I left the office this morning to find out what their total attendance, but this year it was free admission.
Oh, okay.
And if you parked at the church, though, you did have to pay for parking, $5 for parking. But they were very pleased. The weather couldn't have been better. That's the other thing. You're subject to the elements for so many events that happen in Sandoval County.
Right.
And then Viva Corrales, you mentioned, you had Angela on with Corrales Main Street. So they actually created Viva Corrales. So they were required to get their arts and cultural district designation through New Mexico Main Street. They had to create a signature event.
Right.
And they have done it. So it's 4 weekends in a row.
And they're about halfway through right now, aren't they?
Yes. And so it's every weekend. It's the growers market that's happening. The church is open. It's a little museum, and so they have. I don't know what weekend they were going to do the hay rides, but they had one of the weekends designated as a hay ride. But and then so the Placita Studio Tour is also coming up. The promotion materials are out for that event.
Right.
And, a lot of people, come from all over the country, to see these artisans. Again, they have their studios and their homes. Placitas is beautiful. Any excuse to wander around in some of those beautiful homes and then have an art studio is even better, right?
Right.
And then the town of Bernalillo always has its Mountain West Brew Fest.
Okay.
That's kind of the event that came in its own when they phased out the Bernalillo Wine Festival years ago.
Okay.
And then so it became about the breweries. And so we do have a lot of phenomenal breweries in Sandoval County. So
yeah. Well, I know. I was just telling somebody at work this morning that, one of the first places we stopped when we first visited Rio Rancho was one of the breweries, and we hit a food truck for lunch right outside the brewery.
Which one did you go to? Do you remember?
It was Brew Lab.
Brew Lab, yeah.
Yeah.
That was right there on Southern.
Yeah, because we were just looking but we didn't want to, stop at like a chain restaurant. We wanted to get something that we couldn't get back in Iowa because we were still living in Iowa at the time. We were just visiting, looking for a place to live, and we just happened upon that. We're like, hey, let's give this a try.
They do a wonderful job. Talk about an enterprise that has figured out how to just maximize even that parking lot, because they do a little brewery festival, just in the parking lot outside of Brew Lab. as well every year. So it is pretty neat. And then on the economic development side, right? So it draws in tourists. Breweries are actually economic base.
Yeah.
So, we have funded, through the Local Economic Development Act, incentive funds to grow and expand breweries all over New Mexico. Sandoval County, has Ex Novo in Corrales.
Right.
That's been the recipient of LIDA funds to support its expansion, because Ex Novo is canning and distributing their product.
Right.
So it's pretty phenomenal, right?
Well, and that could be its own tourism thing as well, like a brewery tour. Like I've seen those things.
Yes.
So I know they can be a big draw.
We've loaded, actually, because we've had requests from people. So they hit the csandoval.org tourism website. The app is there. It pops up. It used to scare me because there's this little icon that pops up on the screen. And then so you just click on it, and there's already 2 set brewery tours that'll take you: Bosque Brewery, Brew Lab, Ex Novo, Turtle Mountain is the other one. Turtle Mountain is now 2 locations.
Right.
And just amazing. So there's 2 set brewery tours, and then there's a couple of wine tours as well. Because we have some pretty phenomenal wineries. The one that's kind of out in the way and hidden off of Hemis Springs in Ponderosa is the Ponderosa Winery. And it's a little tasting room, and they do all kinds of different wines, in Ponderosa.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know, because we never get enough, right? One of the things are aspirations for the app. So once the app, and so it's been like on a, what do they call it when they do a silent opening? So
a beta test?
We're silent opening it, for about a year, because it little glitch things, right? To make sure everything is pulling in, that people want and loading right. But was to tie some contests through it, right? So, if you stop, take a picture, now with GPS, and, you can identify that you're photographed outside of Turtle Mountain. You hit that one, and then at the end, to be eligible for some fabulous Sandoval swag, right? Tourism swag. So we have aspirations to enhance the app, so we're just trying to work out all the little glitches, and again, it's about partnerships,
right?
We Simply Design is our website maintenance. They're the guys who we ping when something didn't load, or the restaurants aren't loading correctly, and they just do a wonderful job, because they understand if we find out about it, it's because somebody was on the website and said something's not working.
And for those listening or watching who may not know, Simply Design actually is where we record and produce these episodes. So, and they're a partnership with our company, our parent company. So it all feeds in together.
I know. So see, it's partnerships, right? So we've embraced it, and we know we just can't do it, all by ourselves. I mean, Sandoval County has such phenomenal, employees, and we're doing so much all at the same time, right? But dedicated in making sure that, we're stewards, of our taxpayer dollars, and make sure that, the resources, that are there, we're making them work, right?
Yeah.
And so we can't do what we do on the tourism side if we didn't have the support of our Sandoval County Tourism Alliance. They're the ones that tell us, they're hearing from visitors saying, what do we need, what's missing, and signature event, City of Rio Rancho, does its Park in the Park. They just had that event.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago.
And everybody was watching that because, Route 66 Centennial is coming up in 2026. And so I think everybody's out there scouting out vintage classic vehicles. So if you got a 1966 Mustang, if you got that car in a convertible, did they make it in 66 as a convertible? I don't know, but they're getting booked for parades, all across the country, because that Centennial event is coming up. But, and then we can't forget, Sandoval County has a county fair, and it's July of every year, and it's up in Cuba, New Mexico. And it's just a phenomenal event. It's the community coming together. If somebody would have told me that you can close down a state highway for a state fair parade, I said, there's no way. They do it in Cuba. They close down one lane. And so the trucks still go through during the parade, and then the parade procession is in the other lane. And so the truckers go by honking, and they're part of a parade. It's the county fair.
Yeah. I spent most of my life in Iowa, and that was always the big event too, was the county fairs, the state fairs. So yeah, it's those kids are so proud, of the projects that they do to show at those county fairs too. And it's big for them.
We're big supporters of cooperative extension, as administered through New Mexico State University. They office, at our visitor center. And so we see the kids on a regular basis, and everybody's getting ready for their state fair, projects.
Right.
And it's so much more. I didn't realize it was so much more than just showing lambs and steers. And, they have public speaking. They have, presentations. And one young woman said, mine is public speaking, through her 4-H project. So,
yeah, they have something for, I think, just about any interest from my experience in covering fairs in the past.
I would do the little lambs. I just want a little lamb. I want to show a lamb.
But okay, well, anyway, we probably need to be wrapping up here. Is there anything else there's a lot there. Is there anything else that you feel like we need to mention that we haven't gotten to yet?
We just tell folks that, Sandoval County, whether you're looking to start a business, expand your existing business, or, you know of a company that's looking for a place, to locate a new business, give us a call. Our offices, again, our website is very prominent. You just, hit sandovalcounty.gov and Economic Development Department is prominently, one of the pages off of our county website. Okay. And then for tourism, we just always remind people to be considerate of our cultural assets. If you're out hiking and if you pack it in, pack it out, be respectful always, especially this time of year, be conscious of fire risk,
right?
With
our
the windy
winds.
season.
Yeah.
And then, just be safe out there.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and talk about all of this with us and keep us updated if there's any new developments with these projects.
We certainly will. Thank you so much, Tracy.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for Leading Ladies of Rio Rancho from the Rio Rancho Observer. We hope you join us for future episodes. And if you or someone you know would like to be a guest, let us know by emailing editor@rrobserver.com. Again, I'm Tracy Goldeisen, editor of the Rio Rancho Observer. We appreciate you watching and listening. Have a great day.